Hey everybody, this is going to be a quick video on Greg's Grooves that I wasn't planning on making. It's kind of more Greg's Gripes, I guess, today. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I am a self-proclaimed Who superfan. They are my favorite band of all time. I've probably made more videos so far on them than any other musical group. And I found out in the last couple days, as I'm sure many of you did, that Zak Starkey, the drummer for The Who for the last 29 years, Ringo Starr's son, has been fired by Pete and Roger, which is a little bit mind-blowing to me. Now, I'm a drummer, and Keith Moon was my hero. Is my hero. I mean, I was never here to see him play live. I was born many, many years after he died. But it's funny to me that Roger has a contentious relationship with almost every drummer that's followed Keith Moon, despite kind of forgetting that he had a contentious relationship with Keith Moon when Keith Moon was still alive and playing drums for The Who. There's kind of this revisionist history in Roger Daltrey's part where he speaks so highly of Keith Moon's drumming and speaks with such praise about the way his drumming fit in with his vocal lines. And look, I love Keith. I think he was a genius. I think some of the things he did were mind-blowing. But he was not an easy drummer to sing with. I think Roger knows that deep down. He often, especially in later years as his faculties kind of wore down, would fall out of time or drop a beat here and there. And, you know, that's part of what made Who performances, the sloppiness of them. But, you know, it had to be frustrating for Roger. Then, of course, Kenny Jones comes in. And look, Kenny Jones was not the right drummer for The Who. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Good bloke, good dude, but he was not the right fit. And it was just never going to work. And then Zak comes in '96, and he has a little more of a busy playing style that emulates Keith while still being more, I would say, structured in his playing, right? And it seems to be a really good fit. He's structured enough that Pete's happy, because Pete has always been vocal about how sloppy he thought Keith was. I think Pete would have been much happier with a different drummer and has basically said as much in interviews. But, you know, Roger still for the next 29 years has this revisionist history about Keith, even though Zak seems to be a solid drummer for The Who. So that brings us to this week, it's 2025, where Zak gets fired after these shows at the Royal Albert Hall where Roger Daltrey basically calls Zak out to the crowd. Now, Zak is a busier player than Kenny Jones, but I've seen The Who live more times than most people, even huge Who fans. I've seen them on every tour that they've come through New York City since 2002. And I've seen Zak play dozens of times, and he's not that busy a player. He picks and chooses his spots. In fact, when I first saw The Who when I was younger, in like the early to mid 2000s, I was always a little bit disappointed. It seemed like there was never that overdrive gear that could really like push the band into the realms I wanted them to go. I think the only time that we kind of got that was the concert for New York City after 9/11, where the whole band kind of hit that overdrive gear because of the emotion of the event. So I've never found Zak to be an overplayer. He's really, really good at musical nuance and musical cues. Some of the stuff that he does with Pete that they clearly arrange with the musical director of these shows is really awesome. These kind of accents, especially in like Tommy and Quadrophenia segments that are clearly aligned between Pete and Zak. And, you know, it seemed like it was a good fit. Now, everyone knows Pete's hearing's been going for decades. Everyone knows that they're not getting any younger. And yeah, Zak made the transition to an electronic kit. So yeah, I was disappointed when I saw Zak on an electronic kit in the Who Hits 50 tour. It definitely didn't sound right, definitely didn't feel right, but I understand for the health and safety of Roger and Pete, it probably makes sense. But yeah, it's not very Who-like to have an electronic drum kit. So that brings me to, why did Zak get fired? Well, I think I have a little bit of insight into this. Roger... Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Roger is really growing into a grumpy old man. And I say that with love. I always thought that out of the 4 members of the group, Roger, throughout most of their career, was the most level-headed. He seemed to care about the fans. He seemed to care about giving out a good quality performance. But I saw Roger last year, 2024, at the Capitol Theater here in my hometown of Port Chester, New York. And, you know, I haven't done many Roger solo shows. I need the Pete-Roger dynamic for me to be interested, but Roger coming to my hometown, I had to be there. I had to go. It wasn't negotiable. That show really showed off how ornery Roger can be. There were, in his opinion, soundboard problems all night. He complained openly to the crowd about the drummer missing cues, which as a drummer he didn't. Roger doesn't have and never has had the best sense of timing and often misses entrances. And again, I say this with love, I feel like he often scapegoats drummers, soundmen, and won't just accept that he's getting older, his faculties are dissipating, he's going to make more mistakes. He's always had a habit of forgetting lyrics. I mean, this is going back to when he was young. So, Roger, I know you're never going to see this video, but I don't think Zak's the problem. And if Zak was fired for being too busy, that's kind of absurd coming from the people who played with Keith Moon, the busiest drummer who ever lived. So yeah, Roger, Pete, I'm not saying Zak was the be-all end-all of drummers, but he always tried to honor your music. He always tried to play in the fashion and form you seemed to want him to, which, you know, were these moments of Moon-like busyness, but mostly very staid and true, and, you know, with the musical cues, doing some very complicated things with orchestras and guest violinists and stuff. To fire him after 29 years seems like a really odd choice. And, you know, maybe Roger just needs to calm down. Pete doesn't even like performing and has been open about that, so I don't know if Pete had any part in this. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But, yeah, I am a little bit dumbfounded about the choice to fire Zak after 29 years of service. I think Roger, especially from what I saw on that show last year, is definitely growing into a very ornery old man. Still love you, Roger, still love you, Pete, and if you need a new drummer, I'll definitely try out. I'll probably play too busy and you'll fire me, but I'm still putting my name in the hat. I'm telling you, I could do it. But anyway, just wanted to make a quick video reacting to Zak's firing. I really do think that there's a lot of revisionist history as far as Roger's relationship with Keith and just the drumming of The Who, and Zak has never been an overplayer. In fact, I've wanted him always to play more. That's part of The Who's sound. And for Roger and perhaps Pete not to recognize that and to, you know, play with a drum box then. Play with an electronic backing track. You're not going to sound good. Well, anyway, that's my gripes for today. Hopefully maybe this gets worked out and Zak is back at some point. I could see that happening. I could see Roger having a change of heart. But yeah, I don't get it. But still, I'm happy to replace him. Give me a call. See you next time on Greg's Grooves.